Most people make this mistake when they want to control their anxiety. Let me explain you with the help of an example. Last year, a small fire broke out in my building. One of the residents rushed with a bucket full of water and poured it on the fire. To his surprise, it further ignited the fire. Well, putting water on the fire is the most obvious thing to do, right? But he didn't know that a fire caused by a short circuit requires a dry extinguisher. And that's exactly the same mistake most people make when they try to control their anxiety. They use wrong methods and technique to control their anxiety because they don't know the source of it. Hello everyone, welcome to Body Mind Alliance. My name is Neeraj Deshwal, and in this lesson, you're going to learn the pathways or the source of your anxiety in the brain. In the previous lesson, we learned that anxiety can happen in two ways. One, when you are overthinking and anticipating a negative future outcome. Second, when anxiety happens all of a sudden without any reason, even when you're not overthinking and worrying about anything. Now, these two type of anxiety happen because of different activities in your brain. In other words, your brain takes two different paths to create anxiety, or there are two sources of anxiety in the brain. It is really important to know the source of your anxiety because only when you know the source of your anxiety, you can apply a specific technique to control it. So you should know what is causing the fire so that you can apply the right extinguisher. In this lesson, we are going to discuss the two sources of anxiety. Please remember, you don't need to know the anatomy of the brain, but please remember two parts of the brain. One, cortex, another is amygdala. Now let's discuss cortex, your first source of anxiety. Cortex is a part of brain that makes us human. We are sitting on the top of the food chain because of the cortex, because it gives us the capability of thinking, of producing logic, thoughts, planning, imagination, etc. etc. All thanks to the cortex, humans have developed so many technologies. It has turned ideas into $1 million business. We can plan our whole day and do positive affirmation. So these are the few of the many things that you can do with the help of your cortex. You know what else your cortex can do? Is to think of worst case scenarios. Ultimately, your brain wants you to be safe. So it thinks of worst case scenarios, which makes us anxious. So the part of the brain that is helping you to do so many things is also making you anxious. Why it does that, we will discuss that in upcoming lessons. Now let's discuss the second source of anxiety, which is your amygdala. Amygdala is an almond-shaped structure in the brain responsible for emotional processing, especially fear and anxiety. One of its important function is to detect danger in the surrounding, and as soon as it detects danger, it mobilizes body for stressful situation by activating fight and flight mode. It does that by increasing heart rate and breath rate, by heightening the senses and surging the hormones like adrenaline. Let me give you an example. You're walking on the road and you see a speeding car moving towards you. Your amygdala will register it. It will mobilize your body and activate the fight and flight mode, and you will move out of the car's way and you will be safe. So your amygdala reacts very fast. But here is the interesting part. For your amygdala, threat does not have to be real. If it perceives something as a threat, it will come into action. So let me give you an example. Imagine you're taking a walk in the garden at night and suddenly you see a lady in white gown floating in the air. You are completely frightened, and next moment you started running. And then you take a second look. It was just a white cloth hanging on the tree. But your brain perceived it as a threat at first and you started running. So for your amygdala, threat does not have to be real. If it perceive it as a threat, it will come into action. So how does your amygdala perceive something as a threat? So let's understand something about amygdala. It acts really fast. It responds to visual, sounds, and feeling, and it has a capability of matching things. So if you see something which is similar to a memory which made you uncomfortable, it will perceive it as a threat and it will mobilize your body for stressful situation. So let me give you an example which is a personal one. I used to get anxious speaking in public. I used to fumble and I believed that people are judging me. I always wondered why. And when I dug deeper, I found the root in my childhood. So when I first spoke in my class, my teacher and rest of the student made fun of me. So for my amygdala, a group of people staring at me was a threat. So whenever I used to speak in public, I used to get anxious. For some people, it could be something else. A loud noise can make them anxious, not because it is dangerous, but it reminds them of an authority figure they feared growing up. Some people feel anxious when they are alone or when it is dark. So that's how amygdala based anxiety works. Now let's summarize this lesson. Anxiety can happen in two ways. One, when you are overthinking and anticipating a negative future outcome. Now, this type of anxiety is triggered by cortex. Cortex is a part of brain which gives you the capability of thinking. And sometimes it starts imagining worst case scenarios which may make you anxious. Anxiety can also happen all of a sudden without any reason. This type of anxiety is triggered by amygdala. Amygdala, which is responsible for your emotional response, is scanning your surrounding for threat, and sometimes it mistakes a visual, sound, and a feeling for a threat because a similar visual sound or a feeling made you uncomfortable in the past. Most people make mistake with amygdala based anxiety. They try to control it with self-talk and mindfulness technique. During amygdala based anxiety, your thinking brain stops working and your amygdala cannot process logic. So if you do the best of the self-talk or do mindfulness technique, it will not work. In fact, it may further aggravate your anxiety. These type of technique are best suited for cortex-based anxiety. So what techniques to do to control anxiety triggered by amygdala? We are going to learn that in the next lesson. So that's all from this lesson. I'll see you in the next one.